Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking the actual science of human motivation and looking at how understanding your deep, underlying drives can completely transform the way you lead, work, and succeed. If you have ever wondered why some people absolutely thrive in cutthroat competition, while others just prefer quiet collaboration, well, you are definitely in the right place. So let's dive right into this foundational idea from psychologist David McClelland. This quote from 1978 really captures the absolute essence of his research. He believed that unlocking our true motives allows us to stop chasing the wrong goals. Because think about it, if you don't know what fundamentally drives you, you might end up spending your entire career chasing a rainbow that was actually meant for someone else. And this brings us to the core of his groundbreaking work, the acquired needs theory. This is the idea that our primary drivers are acquired through our experiences. They aren't simply hardwired into our DNA from birth. According to McClelland, the things that motivate us in the workplace and honestly in life are learned behaviors. They're heavily shaped by our childhood, our cultural upbringing, and the specific life events we navigate over time. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be covering 1. McClelland and learned needs. 2. The 3 needs theory. 3. Measuring motives with a TAT. 4. Applying theory to management. And 5. Criticisms and limitations. Section 1. McClelland and learned needs. Let's look at the man behind the science. To truly grasp the weight of this framework, you have to appreciate McClelland's prestigious academic pedigree. His career spanned decades at some genuinely top-tier institutions. After earning his PhD at Yale in 1941, he joined the Harvard University faculty in 1956. During his 30 years there, he published hugely influential works like The Achieving Society. This book literally shifted the paradigm from looking at basic survival instincts to analyzing the complex, learned psychological needs that actually drive economic growth. He eventually finished out his career at Boston University, cementing his legacy as a titan of 20th century psychology. Section 2. The 3 needs theory. Let's get into the actual drives. Building on the earlier work of personality psychologist Henry Murray, McClelland categorized these acquired traits into a taxonomy of 3 really powerful drives. First up is the need for achievement, or NAC. Think of your top sales representative who constantly wants to be their own quota. They want to own their successes, so they deliberately seek out that perfect 50% sweet spot of moderate risk. They actually avoid low-risk tasks because they offer no real sense of accomplishment, and they avoid high-risk tasks where success just comes down to blind luck. Above all, high achievers absolutely crave concrete, unambiguous feedback like sales metrics, so they know exactly where they stand. Now, in stark contrast to that, those with a high need for affiliation, or NAF, are driven by a profound desire to be accepted. Picture the team member who is always organizing the office social events and checking in on everyone's well-being. They favor collaboration and team cohesion way over individual glory. Because they actively want to avoid conflict, they readily conform to group norms. These folks thrive in roles requiring strong interpersonal skills, like human resources or client-facing customer service. And finally, there's the need for power, or NPOW, which motivates those who seek to direct outcomes and influence behaviors. Consider the project manager who just naturally steps up to direct a completely chaotic meeting. These individuals naturally gravitate towards leadership positions. They value discipline, they really enjoy status recognition, and they aren't afraid of a healthy debate. Fundamentally, they want their influence to be visibly felt by the entire organization. Now, I know what you're thinking, but this illustrates a crucial nuance. Power isn't inherently bad. McClelland identified 2 distinct types. Personal power is ego-driven, that's seeking authority purely to boost your own status, which for sure can lead to a toxic, domineering culture. But institutional power? That is a real game changer. That's about using your influence to organize and empower the entire team. Research actually shows that managers with a high need for institutional power are the ones who most effectively scale organizational success. Section 3. Measuring motives, the TAT. So a great question here is, how do we actually measure these subconscious needs? Because these acquired needs operate deep within our subconscious. They can't be measured through a simple self-reporting survey. You can't just ask people what they want, right? To solve this, he utilized the thematic apperception test, or the TAT. It's a projective psychological tool originally developed in the 1930s by Henry Murray. Here is how it works. A subject is shown a series of ambiguous, open-ended pictures and asked to just invent a spontaneous story about what is happening in each image. Because the image is ambiguous, the assumption is that the subject will naturally project their own subconscious needs, fears, and motivations right into the narrative. A trained psychologist then scores these stories to reveal the person's true dominant need profile. Once you identify these deep motives using the TAT, you can start mapping them directly to essential workplace skills. McClelland was actually a pioneer in moving away from standard intelligence tests, focusing instead on competencies. As you can see, foundational core competencies, like interpersonal skills or creative problem solving, serve as the base. From there, you build upward into specific leadership capabilities, and your underlying psychological needs essentially dictate which parts of this pyramid are going to come naturally to you. Section 4. Applying theory to management. Time to make this actionable. We now bridge the gap from psychological theory to actionable workplace strategy. Because understanding these needs is only half the battle. Applying them to drive performance is the true mark of leadership. This motivational matrix serves as a brilliant blueprint for aligning your team's assignments and feedback styles with their dominant needs. It shows us that you absolutely cannot use a one-size-fits-all approach. I mean, you shouldn't try to motivate an affiliation-driven employee with some cutthroat competition. They need social approval and cooperative environments. Conversely, a high achiever needs challenging solo projects and concrete metrics to track their success. And your power-driven employees, give them strategic planning roles and increased responsibility. Understanding these individual needs allows organizations to effectively guide employees up this hierarchy of competence. We literally all start at the bottom, unconscious incompetence, where we just don't know what we don't know. But by tailoring training programs to specifically address an employee's dominant need, say by framing a new skill as a competitive advantage for a power-motivated person or a collaborative tool for an affiliation-motivated person, managers can rapidly accelerate their team's progression upward. You keep pushing until they reach unconscious competence, where high performance basically becomes second nature. Section 5. Criticisms and limitations. Because we have to look at the whole picture. As with any major academic framework, it is vital to apply objective scrutiny. No model is perfect, and the acquired needs theory has definitely faced its share of rigorous debate. Academics rightly point out a few key limitations. First, the TAT relies heavily on the subjective scoring of a psychologist, so it's an interpretation of a story, not exactly hard mathematical science. Second, the model completely ignores foundational survival needs like food and shelter, which obviously impact our motivation. Third, its heavy focus on achievement is quite culture-bound, reflecting mid-20th century American and Western capitalist ideals that might not translate globally. And finally, critics argue it sometimes assumes these needs are completely static, whereas human motivation can certainly shift over a lifetime of different evolving experiences. But even with those limitations, while this theory isn't perfect, it provides an absolutely incredible lens for viewing human behavior. It leaves us with a profound question that demands some serious self-reflection. Are your current professional goals truly aligned with your deepest acquired needs? Or are you just chasing a rainbow that was meant for someone else? Uncovering what really drives you might just be the ultimate key to your success. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.